walk down the hill and check out the pond. Welcome to Sugarhill Outdoors, everybody. For those of you new, just joining the page, we've been tracking this pond for a couple of years now. This was built in 2021. Stocked it with bluegill, and in May 2022, we stocked largemouth bass, two different species of largemouth bass. At this point, they used to be called two different strains, but I believe science has changed and they're considered two different species. One northern strain and the other the famous Florida strain. So, right over there, I stocked. Sit down, switch this camera around. There we go. Let's do it the other way so the sun's not in it. That's better. Okay, so I'm just going to take a second to explain what's going on, kind of beginning year 3 stuff. Hey, 3 folks, welcome aboard, everyone. Midwest, what's up? Flipping Kicks, what's up? What's up, Frank? What's up, everyone? Thanks for joining, man. I'm going to give a quick rundown just based on comments and things that are coming down on YouTube. YouTube's weird. It's different than most forms of social media. So I think it's probably easier to stay ahead of what's going on. And by doing that, I mean make new videos about old topics instead of relying on people to go back and look at old videos. So we're right now, what are we, beginning of February 2nd or so, and it's a nice day in Georgia. It's about 67 out here right now. And this is the 3rd year, as I stated before. It was built in 21. The bluegill population was stocked. And in May of 22, the bass population was stocked. And we stocked Floridas and Northerns together. And so far, I think the biggest Florida hasn't actually been larger than 3 pounds, something around the 2.5 pound range. And the largest northern bass has been 4.1 pounds. So it's been a really good, real life genetics experiment in what you actually experience in pond management, because these types of things have happened to me throughout my career. A lot of guys probably would have bet and lost a lot of money that the Floridas would have outgrown the Northerns in this situation. And it has to do with where you stocked it and how you're managing it, There's a lot of factors that go into this. This is very, very complex. And we try to talk about it in simple ways, but the things that we're talking about here are very, very complex. And also outdoors, so there's variability just from weather and environmental conditions. But anyway, year 3 is starting up, so we know we've got some bass that are over 4 pounds, and that's sprinkled down to some bass that are over about 2 pounds. And all the bass are really healthy relative weight-wise. My buddy Bart is over there fishing right now, so hopefully he'll be hollering and maybe we can see a fish that he caught. I'm doing some experimenting with the new 360 camera on these 1-minute videos, and just wanted to go live from the pond because I like live because you can't edit lives. Make sure I didn't miss any questions here. It's just guys talking amongst themselves. That's cool. So anyway, yeah, we got in 2 seasons we got bass, from between 2 pounds and 4 pounds. And yeah, great, pat me on the back, wonderful job, whatever. That's not what's important. That's what I should be doing. That's not even the best I've ever grown largemouth bass, but this is the first time I've ever mixed Northerns and Floridas together like this. And the reason why I did that is because usually when you stock a pond new, you stock it with F1s. And an F1 is a cross between a Northern and a Florida. And that's why on my other pond projects, I've gotten better results, because the genetics on the fish were different. They were F1s that I usually stocked. The idea behind this pond project, this little genetics project here, is to get those F1s born into the pond over time, year after year, by have initially stocking Floridas and Northerns together, and gambling that they'll reproduce. Because scientifically speaking, and in the field too, like from what I've seen, what I've done, F1s outgrow all these bass. This is playtime growth compared to what I've seen F1 bass do. And for example, in this same amount of time, like I've got the northern fish have gone to 4.1. I've gotten F1 bass to 5.25 pounds. Not every single time, but in a couple certain situations and a couple certain places, a little further south of here too. So the growing season is a little bit different too, down further that way too. So but still, I have consistently seen F1 bass grow 2 pounds per season pretty regularly, and that's the best we're doing out here, and that's okay. Every place is different, and what really interests me going forward on this project is how the reproduction grows. Not necessarily how these original group of Floridas and Northerns grow. I've done that lots and lots of times. So for this pond being year 3, having a couple seasons of bass reproduction, having given it a little bit of time for that reproduction to grow, that to me is what is really, really interesting about this pond. Let's switch it around and go for a walk. Put eyes on her. It feels like we're gonna have an early spring. It's really warm right now. I don't even need this sweatshirt, even though I'm wearing it. I'm used to a little warmer. This actually feels like Florida weather here. If you guys have any questions about what I was just talking about, just fire them in there. Try to get to it. We got some willow-like trees growing in here. I don't mind them. Gonna limit some of the bank fishing. Something to think about if extreme amounts of bank fishing are important to you. We had some little goats and some little animal friends out here, but then we had some predators coming through. I don't know, coyotes or dogs or something, and got our animal friends. I think we still have a couple donkeys. I don't think they got the donkeys, but our little goat buddies are no more. It's a sad day at Sugarhill. This has been a great project though, y'all. I'm not kidding. Like, this thing is really a unicorn. It's really a special pond, especially to me, being able to show you guys this stuff, because it's really not that often that you get to stock new ponds anymore. I've been doing this online for 4 years now, and I've only seen a couple guys come through on the page and stuff and need any kind of help with actually doing this kind of work. And generally when they do this kind of work, they do it wrong. They go online and they kind of pick and choose what they want to hear and who they listen to, and these efforts usually don't go well, and they cannot go well a lot of times. I've definitely seen ponds that were built not stocked properly, or drain jobs that were not done properly. I moved down here to this end just to get away from the road noise. I'm gonna set this other camera down. This 360 camera is pretty cool, but I'm used to using the phone, so I'm trying to improve my visuals. Let me read through these questions real quick. Okay, you guys are making fun of Canadian Frank again. Okay, Midwest had asked a good question. 2 good questions there. So first question coming from Midwest is, Did I expect the northern strain largemouth to grow faster than the Florida strain? And the answer to that is yes, and I'll elaborate on that question. And what age would you expect the Florida strain to overtake the size of the northern strain? And I will elaborate on that question, and that'll be about 2 more years, maybe 3 more years. Let's start with the first one though. How I knew it was going to, the northerns were going to outgrow the Floridas, because I've had guys in this business not listen to me and not buy F1s and insist that I go drive all over God's green world and get them Floridas. And the Floridas, the genetics for this stuff used to not be so easy to get, like it's much easier to get a diverse bunch of genetics for your pond for these fish hatcheries now than it used to be 20 years ago. So I have been on magic freaking carpet rides to get these genetics for these guys to stock their ponds, and the whole time knowing, man, you should just stock the F1. So I go down to Florida, I go, like I said, all over God's world, get these fish, stock them in this exact situation in ponds in this area, and sit and watch the same thing. The Florida bass grow a pound a year. Nothing really, it's not terrible, but it's not great. It's not, breaking records. And kind of by the time the Floridas even have a chance to make an effort to be alive, that 8 years to grow to 8 pounds at that growth rate, the pond has been mismanaged for 4 of those 8 years. So it's like hard to quantify, maybe hard to say, where the management failure starts and the genetics stops, kind of in there, the interaction there, But I've done that enough times in this area of the state or in Georgia to where I know stocking F1 or stocking Florida bass in South Georgia is a lot different growth rate than stocking northern bass in the Piedmont regions of Georgia. And I've also always known that F1s outgrow everything, and most of the time those dudes who are doing these kinds of gigs, where you get these kind of gigs, it's for largemouths, it's for growing big trophy bass. And you tell them that, look, man, you want genetically superior fish, you get F1s, and then that's it. There is no more fooling around with this stuff. But this particular project only came available to me because of the unique situation I have with the Titan bass guys down there. And they had a couple different strains of bass available, and we had the opportunity to do it. And I'm really glad. That's another part of this that I'm really proud of, in that it shows guys, look, this is a real world example of, we just stocked northerns and Floridas in the same pond, and what you thought was going to happen didn't. Welcome to pond management. This is the real world. It's real. I say it all the time. It's real in the field. All right, you can sit here and have these hypothetical conversations on the internet all you want. Stock a lake, grow a fish, grow a bass larger than 4.1 pounds in 2 years. There's a challenge. That's what I've done live in front of 20,000 people. So we can make that the goal. You want to talk lake management to me? Have you grown one bigger than that? Because we have here. And that's where this gets like fishing. Like all the best fishermen like to go around holding up the biggest fish saying, hey, I'm the best fisherman because I caught the biggest fish. This works the same. Let this pond go 4 years. Let's see how big the fish are. We'll see. Did we do a good job or not? How big a fish can you grow? It all goes along the same lines. A lot from the consultant's perspective, like what I'm doing seems counterproductive, like giving away every bit of information you've had and done for 30 years to anybody who asks. But I just know that I can do a lot better helping young professionals who are doing this, helping people who don't have pond management budgets do this. I'd say that's probably the two biggest groups of people that I enjoy helping out, just talking about this stuff like this. So I don't want my experience to go to waste. You know, I want my experience and what I did all these years to help people out, and it does. And they're cool too, man. And I appreciate everybody who is cool and, you know, says cool things, positive engagement, you know. That's what I come on here for, is just try to relay what I learned so the next person that comes along and is doing what I'm doing doesn't have to relearn it. You can take what I learned and move forward. And to answer the second part of Midwest fishermen, what part will we expect the Florida strain to outpace the Northerns? Probably in here, never. You're not in the right part of the world. But even if they did, just because they can grow bigger than Northern strains doesn't mean they will grow bigger than Northern strains. And I would say longevity would be on their side. So if you did have a Florida bass that outgrew it, it would probably be out there at years like 6, 7, 8. Because, and I just say that because we've got Northern bass right now that have been caught like half a dozen times. We've got Florida bass that haven't been caught yet. Like the biting tendency is a real big difference. And I knew that too. I knew that from experience on stocking the Floridas. As soon as you stock pure Floridas, your catch rates plummet way down. Florida bass are different natured fish, and my duck buddies, and are trickier to catch than Northern bass. Northern bass bite, and like you'll throw one back. We've had it happen on that dock right there. Catch a Northern bass, and 10 minutes later catch it again in the same day. It's so aggressive and kind of knuckleheaded that when they're biting, they're biting. I haven't seen Bart hollering over there, so I guess he hasn't caught anything. But out Midwest, to answer that second part of that question, I would expect the Florida bass, maybe longevity-wise, maybe like, you know, out, because they're not going to be caught as much, if at all. They might live a little bit longer. That might give them a little bit of an advantage. But I think this is a lot more complex than just throwing some bluegill, throwing some shad, throwing some Florida genetics in there and just sitting back and waiting. You know, I know it is. I've done it. And year to year to year, every year is different. Every year will be different on this place. Every year is different on every place. Obviously, there's similarities too, but there's always different weather, always different rain patterns, always different temperatures, always different knucklehead ducks bringing you knucklehead duck problems. Like weeds. Let me go back. Oh, here comes another one in. Oh, good question, Midwest. Are Florida strains susceptible to cold weather fish kills? Yes, they are. They like it warm. That's what makes them Florida bass mostly. And I think a big reason why over probably the last part of my career, since we've seen a general warming trend in most parts of the country, you haven't seen Florida bass fish kills. I've seen Florida bass fish kills. Sure have. I know one colleague took me to one, and one kind of happened to me. I stocked the pond with bluegill, but couldn't get the Florida strain, and the dude went with some other guy with some other found Florida strain and stocked them. And then a few seasons later, he had a fish kill on a real cold weather snap here in Georgia. On those fish. So I have seen that happen, but it's not common, but it is possible. And I think a lot of what you see on Florida bass, Florida strain information is misinformation online. I don't think, like a lot of times when I'm seeing people talking about bass genetics, it's not somebody with a bass genetics degree. you know. And I don't have a bass genetics degree, but I do have a cool bass genetics project that I've got going right here. So, and I've stocked a lot of different kinds of bass genetics and watched them play out in the field over 30 years. And I can tell you, the most important thing is not the genetics. The most important thing is how good can you measure relative weight, and can you manage the fishery? Can you understand balance and understand that there can be too many bass or too few bass? And we're going to go back and emphasize there can be too many bass, because that's where everybody's at. You have too many bass. You need to be harvesting some bass. Probably 90% of you watching this who will ever see it. You got a pond that's all full of 1 pound fish. That's a general sign. But it's complex. Again, it's very complex. It's hard to summarize the fish population balance of every fishery in 21 minutes on live YouTube. It's not even possible to do. I do like to sit here and put eyes on it though. Let me double check for any other questions I might have missed. Frank's funny, man. Frank should be a comedian. Frank probably is a comedian. It's probably Frank Caliendo. Hey, what's up? What's up, man? Doing fine. Just doing pond talk stuff. We're down to 2 followers, and I'm about to the end of it anyway. I might do a little bit of fishing, do a couple 1 minute video deals. But looking forward to this season, looking forward to tracking this reproduction. We should, like I said, we should be seeing some F1 reproduction coming in. And that's what interests me most about this is how the offspring are growing in here, not so much the adults that I initially stocked. But anyway, keep you guys posted. Thanks for watching, all the positive engagement. We'll see you next time.